Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Elsener, and I'm the founder of Decode, the world's first zero-waste apparel design and manufacturing system. I've been working in the world of zero-waste design for over 10 years now, and have completely dedicated my life's work to solving the complex problems of the fashion industry. I do this through communication, sharing, and play because I really love this complex puzzle solving and complex problems, so this has become my truly perfect niche. My design practice is put to use in many different ways, though the three main categories are design, education, and production. I create zero-waste design tools, patterns, and I mentor, teach, host workshops, and now work in the world of manufacturing as well, which I'll get into a little bit later. I always wanted to start off these kind of sessions with this mind map of everything that the world of zero waste design touches. It goes into so many different branches, so many different avenues, and I'll show you a few snippets from every category in here just to show you the breadth of what zero waste design can be. And I really like teeing off sessions like this to show that there's so much more than simple pattern making that goes into the world of zero waste design. As many of you already probably know, fashion is one of the most polluting industries in the world because the way that we produce garments and increased demand for new things all of the time. 80% of a garment's environmental impact is generated by fabric itself. And if it isn't obvious at this point in our lives, waste is a design flaw. An average of 15% of material is wasted at the cutting stage alone. However, that is actually quite a conservative estimate. It's closer to like 25 or 30% of fabric is wasted. It's really interesting because in the world, we're becoming more aware of post-consumer waste, how individuals can upcycle and recycle and reinvent how they do end of life for their products. But we often don't talk about the production waste that is created by our industry. It's estimated that 60 billion meters square of fabric is wasted annually. But again, this is probably an underestimate because we're kind of mostly talking about the global north in these numbers. So it's just an astronomical number, but also changing this number is insanely difficult. If we start looking for the origin of the issue, we could think that it comes from non-efficient production facilities. But when we look closer at the textile manufacturing process, we can see that optimization is simply just coming too late in the process. How can we fit curves and squared shapes together when it has not been designed to fit together perfectly? So it becomes obvious that something needs to be changed, and it needs to be done at the design stage and not at the production stage. Now, just to level set, when I talk about zero waste design, I'm talking about the creation of design through pattern efficiency, where 100% of material is used. There are tons of different versions of this nowadays, from zero waste lifestyle to using zero water, zero dyes. So just to, again, level set, we were talking about efficiency in pattern making and pattern cutting. Here I have two side-by-side views of a t-shirt, one standard shirt where all the blue is the waste created by the standard process. And on the right is a zero waste pattern layout that has no waste due to efficiency in design. And when I talk about zero waste design, I always like to mention that these three principles, it's not only saving material, but it's saving time and energy as well. By, of course, engineering patterns to use 100% of material, but then also maximizing our efficiency and using design tools in order to make the design process a little bit easier, and saving energy by like mentally everyone being on the same page of getting on board with zero waste design. Now, getting into the world of design, first and foremost, I have, over the last number of years, distilled all of my design principles into these 6 core pillars of design. First and foremost, experimentation, collaboration, obsession, dissection, and education. One of the most important things you can do as a designer is decide what you stand for. And any project I take on must meet some or all of this criteria. And each project needs to fulfill some aspect of these. Decode is a moniker that I've worked under since I was about 8 years old. It started off as the Danielle Elsener company, and very clever for an 8-year-old, and has evolved since then. I have, over the last number of years, created these new ways of thinking or problem solving where we talk about solving the impossible problem of sustainability in the fashion industry, designing backwards, and just creating a whole new structure to work in, because designing zero waste into the existing structure just requires like insane reworking of your design skills. Now, when I look at or talk with a designer, the only thing I ever want to see is sketchbooks. So here's just a little sampling of mine. As you can see, I don't do a ton of actual garment sketching. I sketch a lot in pattern form and create lots of formulas. I use color and shapes to really try to develop a concise message around zero waste pattern cutting. Here's a snapshot of a few of the samples that came out of that sketchwork. These are created during lockdown, actually, and are only prototypes. The final garments don't exist, but that's actually okay because it's more about the concept anyway. And you can see how this idea of circling the square, which is one of the big ideas that I've been working under for a while, the circles and squares kind of cut and reappear in other places on the body, and it shows that there's more going on in the garment than you may think. Here, I am going to show you a little bit of process around a denim collection I worked on while I was in my MA at the Royal College of Art in London. I love working with denim because of the natural properties of the fabric, as well as with most selvage denim, you get a really great, like, precise formula that you need to work into. These are some of my pages of sketching, trying to figure out some really great lay plans and trying to dissect how to place these design tools that I've worked on, which I'll get into a little bit more a little later on. But the details that you can get out of developing zero waste patterns are really beautiful because you are using the selvage, you're using every inch of fabric. And so the way that you lay the pattern intrinsically shows where the edges come from and how they all pull together. So I love showing off little detail sections like this that really show that truly every inch of fabric was used. I also really enjoy, you can play up or play down certain seams with zero waste design. There can be different shapes or different lines that end up coming out because of the way that the patterns are cut. So you can either play those up or play those down depending on what you want. So for this image on the right here, I really played it up on the interior with contrast bias binding, but on the exterior, they look like very standard kind of simple garments. People often ask, do zero waste garments have to look giant, boxy, or weird, or not fit well? And the answer is no. It can be anything you want it to be. I say that any garment can be designed zero waste. So with this collection, I tried to design as close to standard as possible, where if an observer was just looking at the garments, they wouldn't necessarily know it was zero waste. But the more you look at it or get involved with it, you see that things are a little bit different and you start to understand a little bit more about the design process that went into it. If you can't tell already, the making process and the development part of the process is my absolute favorite part of design. And I, of course, include a lot of it in my presentations and sketchbooks, and it really cyclically informs my design process. So I always have to include some of these slides in here. Moving on to the world of education. As I mentioned, a lot of my work focuses around creating design tools to allow users to work in the world of zero waste design in their own way. And with these tools, the point of creating it is, what is the point of keeping design skills to yourself if we're trying to make such a substantial change in the industry? This is an example of one of the zero waste pattern masters I developed while I was in my time at RCA. The idea is that the user will be either provided with a set of instructions or just given the tool itself. And the user is led to understand the theory behind zero waste design to either recreate a garment or to create something completely new. The pattern master that we all know has been ubiquitous with the fashion education system since its inception in the 70s, and it hasn't been updated since then. And we're in a world where we need to be updating things, and why hasn't the pattern master ever been adjusted? So it's an interesting thing to think about. This zero waste design system that I talk about includes turning patterns into tools that turn fabric into zero waste garments. Just a nice little, it's in a line, but it's really a very circular thing. The way that the zero waste pattern masters came to be was actually from a moment of thriftiness, because as a student, you don't have all the money in the world to print everything that you need. And so I was printing off little tiny sections of patterns, just the important parts, because I realized you don't need to print all the blank space in between the lines. So I had a stack of lines on paper that I got to see through the light, and I saw some shapes kind of forming, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I could just join all of these lines together and then have like placement instructions of dimensions and distances and things like that. And that's how the Pattern Master was born. Here's an example of a Pattern Master for a pair of shorts or a pair of pants. It's one I use most often because it is the easiest to explain and kind of make really quickly. There are a few videos online of me working with this if you're interested in seeing more. I have Pattern Masters for lots of different types of garments. I'm still working through this like on the daily, where I'm trying to make them as inclusive as possible. So I'm working on making more block type pattern masters instead of garment type. So like there will be a knitwear block and a trousers block and a outerwear block that has all of the size inclusivity you could possibly need. So these are still a work in progress, but they're a great kicking off point. I work to make them as user-friendly as possible to all skill levels. I also am working to create workshops around a bunch of the different techniques that I've developed, where you question the theory of garments, creating repeat structures and formulas and things like that. And I actually have started running a few workshops with the collective that I helped form, Zero Waste Design Online. And some really amazing things ended up coming out of it, really creative thinking and different ways of putting garments together on a piece of fabric. So this is also available if you go to zerowastedesignonline.com, you'll be able to find some of this. And this work around education and the work around design theory and trying to make this work in a system that doesn't want it has led me to opening Decode MFG. As I said at the top of this presentation, this is the world's first zero waste manufacturing facility. We're quite small and have only been in operation since October 2021. So it's been about 4 or 5 months. And here we, not only can design and create samples of zero waste garments, but we can actually produce at scale. I come from a background of more corporate design where I've worked with quite large entities, and I kind of understand the problems of getting a project like Zero Waste Design through. And so we're, not only a proof of concept that Zero Waste Design works in a large scale manufacturing sense, but also we can do the production for you. So here we not only make our own garments, we have our own in-house label, Decode supply, but then we also manufacture for others that are looking for zero waste solutions, and work with, I have a lot of friends who have small brands. So we do small batch production, but we're willing to be very flexible and kind of work on any sustainably minded project to try to get the world to a much better position through sustainable fashion. So that's me. Please feel free to reach out anytime. I'm more than happy to go on tangents about zero waste design for eons. So this is a quick little overview, but thank you so much. Thanks for letting us be part of this, and hope to speak to you soon.